Welcome to Go SunSmart at Work, a sun safety training for employees who work outdoors. Go SunSmart at Work is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health because sun protection is recommended for everyone under the sun. This 30-minute video is divided into 4 units that cover ultraviolet radiation, skin cancer risk, skin cancer prevention, and early detection. It will arm you with information and tools you can use to be more sun-safe at work. The sun is the Earth's energy generator. It gives us heat and light. It grows our food and even elevates our mood. We can get vitamin D from the sun too, and it doesn't take long. It's possible for a light-skinned person to make enough vitamin D by spending 10 to 15 minutes in the sun twice a week, around noon. Now that's without sunscreen and with your face, arms, and hands exposed to the sun. And it takes a little longer for people with dark skin. The sun is a really good thing, but too much unprotected exposure to the sun's radiation can cause sunburns, suntans, wrinkles, eye damage, and skin cancer. Some of these effects can lead to lost work time, painful treatments, high medical bills, scarring, and sometimes loss of life. So, the key is to find a balance, to enjoy the benefits from working and recreating outdoors without confronting the harms of too much exposure to the sun's ultraviolet radiation. The goal of this training is to make you aware of your personal risk for sun damage, show you how to apply simple strategies to reduce your sun exposure at work and at home, and, in the process, help you avoid sun damage and skin cancer. Anyone's skin or eyes can be hurt by the sun's UV rays, but everyone's risk for damage is different. It depends on your skin type, where you live, and how you protect yourself. By knowing your personal risk, you can take the right precautions to lower it. Risk is largely determined by your skin type. There are 6 common skin types shown here. People with skin types 1 and 2 have the highest risk for skin cancer. Fair-skinned people have less melanin or pigment in their skin. Their skin tends to burn easily and not tan. People with skin type 3 have medium risk. And people with skin types 4, 5, and 6 have lower risk. They have more melanin, which can provide some natural protection. However, even if you have dark skin, your risk for skin cancer is not 0. Also, people with darker skin are more likely to have skin cancer diagnosed at a later stage when it's more difficult to treat. So, prevention and early detection are important for everyone. Your risk is also determined by where you live and work. If you live at a higher elevation, your risk for skin cancer increases because a thinner atmosphere filters less UV. UV intensity increases about 5% for every 1,000 feet that you go up in elevation. As an example, UV is 26% higher in the mile-high city of Denver than at sea level. Latitude, or how far north or south your state is located, is also a factor for UV exposure. Southern states like Florida or Louisiana have higher UV because they are closer to the equator. These National Weather Service maps show how UV can change with the seasons and geography. In January, the average UV index is generally low to moderate in all states. In July, the average UV index is high to very high in most states, extreme in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, and low to moderate in Alaska and Maine. In March and October, UV tends to be lower in the north and higher in the south. There are a couple of other risks worth mentioning. First, melanoma can be hereditary. Having close relatives with melanoma can increase your risk. Age is also a risk factor. White men over age 55 are more likely to be diagnosed with melanoma than other people. Up until age 49, more white women are diagnosed with melanoma than other people. Having many moles can run in families too and increase risk. Lastly, risk for skin cancer is impacted by how much time you spend in the sun. People who work outdoors are exposed to the sun on more days than people who work indoors. Outdoor workers receive about 8 times more UV than indoor workers and have a 60% greater risk of developing keratinocyte cancers. People who work indoors have a greater risk of developing melanoma, perhaps because of more intense sunburning when they recreate or take a sunny vacation from their indoor job. Childhood exposure to UV and several sunburns in adolescence can also increase risk for skin cancer. In summary, you should now be more aware that your risk for UV damage and skin cancer is higher if you are skin type 1 or 2 with fair skin that burns easily, have close relatives with melanoma, have many moles, if you had several blistering sunburns as a child or teenager, live or work closer to the equator in a southern state or at a high elevation in a mountainous state, if you spend a lot of time outdoors without using sun protection, and if you are male. Anyone's skin or eyes can be hurt by the sun's UV rays, but everyone's risk for damage is different. It depends. In this unit, we'll look at the tools you can use at work and at home to help prevent skin cancer on and off the job. Some of the tools are easier to use on the job than others, and they should be used in a way that doesn't interfere with your work or cause a safety concern. Choose the ones that work for you, your particular job, and your work environment. First, there's the UV index. Second, there's shade devices. Third is long sleeves, hats, and sunglasses. And fourth is sunscreen. Let's look at each sun safety tool in that order. UV is not high all the time, so it's a good idea to check the UV index every day to know when to take precautions. The UV index is a standard measure of the strength of UV at a particular place and time of day. It's a scale for how quickly someone might sunburn without protection. In general, UV is strongest in summer months. UVB in particular, is strongest in the middle of the day when the sun is directly overhead. However, UVA hangs around until much later in the afternoon. So, peak UV hours are from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. That's when sun protection is most needed. The UV index is published every day online by the EPA and the National Weather Service. The scale goes from 0 to 11 plus. Sun protection is recommended when the index is 3 or more. UV is considered high at 6 and very high at 8. Sun protection should definitely be used on these days. 11 is considered extremely high. Unprotected skin can burn in a matter of minutes at this level. The weather helps predict UV some of the time. UV is lower on rainy days, but you can still get a sunburn on a cloudy day. Clouds screen only about 20 to 40% of UV. Don't be fooled by the temperature either. Early in the summer, you might get a cool day, but the UV can still be high. One of the most difficult things to do at work is to rearrange your outdoor work schedule based on the UV index. We mention it here because it's one way to reduce UV exposure, especially on extremely high UV days. For example, if possible, schedule meetings and trainings indoors at midday instead of first thing in the morning to avoid heat and UV on summer days. Or take your lunch break indoors, in a vehicle, or in the shade on high UV days. Shade is a sun protection tool. Shade is any place where the direct rays of the sun are being screened by a physical barrier. Shade can be made by a variety of things: an umbrella, a dense leafy tree, or the shadow cast by a building or bridge. Think about how you work, and think about overall safety. Can you bring shade with you? Is it ever possible to put a pop-up canopy over your work area? Or to attach an umbrella to heavy equipment? Think about where you take your breaks or eat lunch. Is there natural shade in the environment, like trees that you can sit under to eat lunch? What about other sources of shade? Can you sit in a vehicle? Or how about the shadow of a building or bridge? If you spend a good part of your day in a vehicle, keep in mind that windows don't provide complete shade. Auto glass may block UVB, but not all UVA. And an open window increases UV dose 5 times more than a closed window. Interestingly, more melanoma occurs on the left side of the body in the US, where the driver's seat is on the left, and more melanoma occurs on the right side of the body in Australia, where the driver's seat is on the right. Do you ever drive with your arm out the window and your sleeve rolled up? Clothing is one of the most powerful tools you can use to protect yourself from the sun at work. It has the ability to block 100% of UVA and UVB rays. It doesn't wash off, wear off, or sweat off. It doesn't have to be reapplied, and it lasts all day. When clothing is used for sun protection, the more skin the clothes cover, the better. Long-sleeve shirts are better than tank tops, and long pants are better than shorts. If a uniform or other clothing you're required to wear at work leaves parts of your skin exposed, use sunscreen on the exposed areas. If you have the ability to choose what you wear at work, know that tightly woven fabrics provide better protection. To find out if your fabric is tightly woven, simply hold it up to a light. If you can see visible light through the weave, then invisible UV light can get through too. Dark colors of fabrics absorb more UV than light colors, but always try to wear clothing that keeps you cool and comfortable in hot weather. A thin white t-shirt only has an SPF of 4, not nearly enough to protect you from the sun. Hats can be a very effective form of sun protection, especially when the sun is directly overhead and the brim can work at its best. When hats are used for sun protection, the principles are similar to clothing. Hats with a wide brim all the way around or with a long flap in the back provide more coverage to the face, ears, and back of the neck than baseball caps or visors. Hats with a tighter weave provide better sun protection. For example, canvas hats provide more protection than straw hats. What's most important, though, is to wear a hat at work every day if you can, because any hat is better than no hat for sun protection. On the job, hard hats can provide some UV protection. Wide brim hard hats are even better. Add a sunshade, neck shield, or full winter liner to give yourself the best sun protection. One thing hats aren't very good at is protecting the face and eyes from reflected UV. The sun's rays can reflect off of many ground surfaces. Water, asphalt, concrete, sand, and snow can all reflect UV back at you at work. Fresh white snow is a very reflective surface, reflecting as much as 88% of UV. The reflection off snow is an excellent reason to wear sunscreen and sunglasses in the winter. Sunglasses are a handy tool to protect your eyes from harmful UV rays. When sunglasses are used on the job, think safety first. Then choose sunglasses that provide 99 to 100% UV protection, which should be most sunglasses sold in the US. Look for labels that say UV absorption up to 400 nanometers or meets ANSI UV requirements. Larger lenses provide more coverage and help block reflection. The lenses don't have to be dark to be UV protective. Even clear eyeglasses and contact lenses can have UV protection. Sunscreen is the last tool you can use to protect yourself from overexposure to UV at work. All sunscreen products are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. They have to meet minimum standards such as screen out at least 93% of UVB in order to be called a sunscreen. That's an SPF of at least 15. Let's look at some sunscreen basics for people who work outdoors. 1. Use a sunscreen with SPF 30 or more. Less than 30 may not give you enough protection, and more than SPF 50 may be more than you need. SPF 30 to 50 is a sweet spot for protection and price. 2. Find a sunscreen that you like and that likes you. If you find your skin reacting to a sunscreen, try other ones. It's often the perfumes and extra ingredients that can cause sensitivity. 3. Protect your lips with SPF 15 or higher lip balm. And 4. Make sunscreen a daily habit, even in the winter. Put it on every morning and reapply it at midday. Now let's look at some sunscreen specifics. Sunscreens are labeled with a sun protection factor. The SPF number tells you how much UV the sunscreen will absorb or reflect and about how long it will last for your skin type. While most sunscreens provide some UVA protection, SPF is actually a measure of only UVB protection. Sunscreens with SPF 15 screen out 93% of UVB. Sunscreens with SPF 30 screen out 97%. SPF 50 screens out 98%, and SPF 100 screens out 99%. No sunscreen blocks 100% of UVB. A higher SPF number may not provide a lot more protection after SPF 50, but higher SPF sunscreens are made to last longer. That's why it's recommended that people who work outdoors wear an SPF of at least 30. There are two types of sunscreen you can choose: those that absorb UV and those that reflect it. Most sunscreens have chemicals that absorb UV. It's like wearing a sponge on your skin that soaks up the sun's rays. Other sunscreens contain tiny metals that reflect or scatter UV. They're like putting aluminum foil on your skin. These ingredients are called titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. Each type of sunscreen has pros and cons. The chemicals in the UV absorbers need time to bond with your skin, so that means you need to apply them about 15 to 30 minutes before going out in the sun. The reflecting sunscreens work right away, but they can rub off easily. Since both types work well, it's best that you choose the one that feels and smells good to you. If you'd rather not put sunscreen chemicals on your skin, choose the titanium dioxide or zinc oxide sunscreens. These are sometimes called organic or physical sunscreens. What about UVA protection in sunscreen products? Well, since UVA is not part of the SPF equation, the term broad spectrum on the label means that the sunscreen covers a certain portion of the UVA as well as the UVB spectrum. Most sunscreens sold in the US are broad spectrum. And speaking of labels, in 2011 the US added some guidelines. Sunscreens can no longer be labeled as sunblocks because no sunscreen can block 100% of UV. Sunscreens also cannot be labeled as waterproof or sweatproof. These terms can be misleading. Instead, sunscreens can claim to be water resistant, and they have to state on the label whether they protect the skin for 40 or 80 minutes of swimming or sweating. A practical question that's often asked about sunscreen is, how much do I need to apply? And the answer is, apply a lot because more matters. Sunscreens are tested under very controlled conditions. When we go to put it on, we don't use as much as they did in the lab test, and so we may not be getting the SPF value that's on the label. So, at the beginning of your day, every day, apply a thick coat of sunscreen to all exposed skin. Better yet, apply 2 coats, like you would when painting a wall, to get all the thin spots and mist spots. Then reapply the sunscreen at midday, every day, because it can rub off, wash off, wear off, or sweat off. You may work in an area that has mosquitoes out during the day. Besides being annoying, mosquitoes can transmit West Nile virus and other diseases. As a result, you may find yourself having to use a mosquito repellent at work. Using a product that combines sunscreen with DEET, a chemical and insect repellent, is not recommended. Instead, use them separately. Apply sunscreen first, let it dry, and then apply mosquito repellent. Products with DEET are meant to be applied only once a day, but it's a good idea to apply sunscreen at least twice a day. Sunscreen does expire about 3 years past its purchase date. Treat your sunscreen with care when taking it with you on the job. Protect it from very high heat, humidity, and direct sunlight. Sunscreen stored in a glove compartment or toolbox may not be as effective. Shake sunscreen before use. If it feels gritty or oily, the compounds may have separated, making it less effective. So think about replacing it. Lastly, if sunscreen just seems too unpleasant or too questionable for you to use, maybe these examples can help change your mind.
Sunscreen gets in my eyes.
It's true that some sunscreens can get in your eyes, so try different ones, including face lotions or aftershave with SPF. Spray sunscreens can also get in the eyes of adults and children. If you use them, be wary of the wind and rub them in after spraying them on.
Sunscreen kills ocean reefs, so I'm not going to use it.
The research on the effect of sunscreens on ocean reefs is ongoing, but some places like Hawaii have begun restricting the use of some sunscreen chemicals. So be aware of sunscreen guidelines if you live, work, or travel near the ocean.
I don't want to put chemicals on my skin.
I hear ya. So, you can use organic sunscreens instead. Look for titanium dioxide or zinc oxide in the ingredients. They sound like chemicals, but they aren't. They're tiny metals that act like foil on your skin and reflect rather than absorb UV.
I saw online that sunscreen causes cancer.
You may have read or heard that sunscreen causes cancer. Marketers and the media have many motives. Most scientists and dermatologists agree, however, that sunscreen is safe and that there's more benefit to using sunscreen than not using it. Keep in mind that it's just one of the tools you can use to work safe in the sun. In summary, start new sun protection habits at work. Protect yourself with the powerful tools at your disposal. Use long sleeves, a wide brim hat, sunglasses, shade, and sunscreen. Just in case skin cancer or precancerous AKs pass through your defenses, you can still stop them in their tracks. At least 95% of skin cancers can be treated successfully if detected early. You know your skin better than anyone else, so who better to perform a skin check at home than you? It's simple. It only takes a wall mirror and a hand mirror to examine your skin closely. Normal moles are usually brown, round, and smaller than a pencil eraser. Most moles develop before we become adults, and most moles are harmless. Melanomas develop when normal mole cells go rogue and start to grow out of control. Look for new moles and any changes in size, color, shape, or texture of your existing moles. The American Academy of Dermatology's ABCDE rules describe what melanoma can look like and what to look for in your moles. A is for asymmetry. One half of the mole does not match the other. B is for border. The edges are ragged, irregular, or poorly defined. C is for color. The color varies from one area to another. It may have differing shades of brown or black, sometimes white, red, or blue. D is for diameter. The area is larger than 6 millimeters, about the size of a pencil eraser, and is growing larger. And E is for evolving. If you see any changes in a mole, a new mole, or any other unusual changes in your skin, show it to your doctor. The American Academy of Dermatology suggests a simple routine for doing regular skin checks. First, examine your naked self, front and back, in a large mirror, and then your right and left sides with your arms raised. Second, bend your elbows and look carefully at your forearms, underarms, and palms. Next, look at the backs of your legs, the spaces between your toes, and the soles of your feet. Then, examine the back of your neck and your scalp with a hand mirror. Finally, check your entire backside with a hand mirror. It's handy to keep a record of what you see on your skin to track changes over time and to remember what to show your doctor. You can take detailed notes, plot points on a body diagram, or take photographs of unusual spots. If you have any doubt about a mole, a spot, or a sore on your skin, show it to your doctor or a dermatologist. Another set of eyes can come in handy for early detection. For example, women are 9 times more likely than men to notice melanoma on others. Also, men have been known to spot melanoma on a coworker, especially in a place that the coworker may not routinely see, such as the back of their neck. So, if you see something, say something. You may save someone's life. In summary, you can now perform a skin self-examination following the ABCDE rules, document skin changes with photos or a body map, and report anything new or evolving to your doctor. Congratulations! You are now aware of how overexposure to UV can harm you. It's time to apply what you've learned to protect your skin and eyes from the sun and to spot skin cancer early. Set a goal and take action. To get started, pick a sun safety tool to use at work this week. Once that strategy becomes a habit, add another one to increase your sun safety at work. Are you curious about how to get started? Here are some goals you could put into practice this week. What? I will check the UV index. When? Each morning before work during high UV months. How? With my weather app or by Googling the UV index. What? I will use the shade canopy on my heavy equipment. When? Every day between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. How? By not retracting or detaching it. What? I will apply sunscreen. When? Every morning before I leave for work. How? by slathering sunscreen on my face, ears, neck, and arms if they will be exposed during my workday. Remember to apply what you've learned in order to avoid sun damage and skin cancer. Make sun safety a habit at home and at work. It could save your life. Thank you to the American Academy of Dermatology and the American Cancer Society for much of the information presented here. Thank you to the National Cancer Institute for the funding to develop this program, and thank you for your attention. Have a sun-safe workday.